Lawton, 602 North Court, Fairfield. So, I'm a local climate scientist. I work in town now for 3 years at restoring beaver dams and wetland restoration. So in my research and development, I've kind of made several discoveries about how like allowing the grass to grow in people's lawns is actually the #1 thing we can do to reverse climate change and lower the ocean. So I've done my own research and verified it with NASA data and all sorts of good stuff. So I've talked to you guys before about the lawn ordinance, and it's not a popular subject. So just kind of want to get a feel for what kind of process we need to go through to really look into it and really kind of decide if it's what we can do about this. So first of all, I want to ask you guys, does Fairfield as a city recognize climate as a crisis? Or is this something that we care about as a city, or is it something we choose to ignore? All right, let me check this. Well, I guess I'll just keep going.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and finish? I mean, I think from a city's perspective, I think the council appreciates climate change and what's going on. We've done a lot of things over the years to help it.
Yeah.
By a lot of solar that we've done, our lighting, and the list is longer than that, but my impression is that there's not a lot of support to just let the grass grow.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just run through my notes here. Here's some basic facts. Ice melt, according to NASA data, so I reviewed the NASA data, and ice melt only accounts for 10% of the ocean level rise in the last 30 years. So in the last 30 years, the ocean has risen 6 inches, and only about 1/2 inch of that is due to the polar ice caps melting. So for whatever reason, it's not common knowledge in the mass media, but so that this is something that I've discovered, and I'd like to bring it to the city's attention. And do we have city scientists who can look at this data? Aquifer drainage accounts for 20 to 80% of sea level rise. So, City of Fairfield, we installed a new well for the City of Fairfield about 20 years ago into the Jordan Aquifer. So we went through it from like a 50-foot deep well to a 2,000-foot deep well. And now that well level is 450-foot deep. So we're looking at a 400-foot drop in the water table over the last 20 years. And what's happening is we're pumping water out of the aquifer, and it's going into the water cycle, and it's raising the ocean. Lawns in America account for more land than all national parks put together. Lawns in America have the power to offset our carbon footprint and lower our ocean footprint. Lawns in America have the power to reverse droughts and regulate the rain cycle. Tall grass lawns have deep roots that act as straws pumping water directly into the aquifer. Okay, we are already in a crisis of biblical proportions. Indigenous natives from Micronesia are fleeing their flooded ancestral islands and moving right here to Fairfield, Iowa. So I met a guy last week by the name of Johnson Matanto from the Marshall Islands, from the small island of San Luis Sabor. So it's a little island that's non-volcanic. There's no volcano. The whole island used to only be 6 inches above sea level, and now it's at sea level. So it's like the whole island is wet year-round, and it's a tiny island about the size of Fairfield. only 1,000 people live there, but there's hundreds of islands that's similar demographic, and they're leaving. They have to leave. They're refugees, and they're moving right here to Fairfield.
Chris, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay.
Council, how would you like to proceed?
I'm not sure what the question is.
He's asking how to make it, how to officially ask the city to look into it. So,
I'm looking at what the line graph.
well, I think that's part of the discussion. So, Chris, you came last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a little online search and tried to find what other cities in Iowa do. And it's not exactly, they don't let people just grow
Yeah.
whatever's there. It gets, some of them get really involved where once a year or twice a year, you have to have it certified by somebody who can say that it's 80 to 85% native prairie,
Yeah.
not weeds. So it's kind of a big deal, and that expense is on the homeowner. So it's not so much a thing that someone does in their yard as something like, someone has a big grassy field as part of their property, like a school or a hospital, and they want to do maybe an acre or two.
Yeah.
For them, that's worth it, to go through that, to seed the grass, to seed it, to make it sure it's what it's supposed to be, and then have it checked. So it's tricky to allow people just to grow whatever in a lawn, because how do you know it's not what our list of noxious weeds that say, we don't want certain plants that.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. I mean, it's not impossible, but it might not be what you imagine it to be.
We will be the first city in America to enact such legislation, and what we're doing is we're actually removing legislation. We're giving people the freedom to lower the ocean on their own property. We give people the freedom to reverse climate change on their own property and stop the crisis of biblical proportions. Okay, simple. Let it grow. And not everyone. It's not going to be like crazy. It's not going to be anarchy. Only about 2% of people are going to let their lawns grow. It's going to be, a few eccentric yards. That's it. But it's actually going to save the city money, save the city hassle. Scott Vaughn's job's going to get a whole lot easier. We can do simple things like the right-of-way. Let's put a height on the right-of-way, but let people in the non-right-of-way, they can grow it as tall as they want. And when they wrote that law 100 years ago, pests were a big problem. But now we're down to 1% insects, or we're down to we're having like an insect genocide. There are no insects anymore. When you're driving down the highway on a road trip, remember how we used to have to clean the windshield every time you got gas? We don't have to do that anymore. I used to ride a motorcycle in the 90s. I get hit in the face all the time. Now I don't get hit in the face anymore. The pests are gone. What we need to do now is let the lawns grow and start bringing back biodiversity is another huge part of it. Give the birds some insects to eat. We're down to 1% birds. I could go on. So why don't we start a panel? Why don't we start a discussion group? Get some scientists involved. Like Fairfield, does Fairfield have any scientists? Kind of thing. Do we need a petition? How many signatures do we need? Can we get this on the ballot? These are the.
That's the place that.
Yeah.
That's your privilege to pursue all that and
Yeah.
do all that and do that prep work
Yeah.
and bring that to us.
Okay.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. So, do we need to come back again, or should we come back with signatures, or?
Well, you have a lot of questions,
Yeah.
so you're going to have to start pursuing those. Build your panel, have your
Okay.
discussions,
We'll build our own panel.
and because you're going to need
Yeah.
some stats there and other
Yeah.
things, because it isn't just about talking to us, it's talking to the whole city.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So you're going to have to make your compelling arguments
Okay.
there. It's,
Okay.
again, it's not just for us, it's affecting everyone else too, and they want to hear what you have to say. So
Okay.
that's where it comes back.
Yeah.
We're here to assist you to pursue that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
I thought there was a provision in the Fairfield plan to allow some of the park regions to grow into natural prairies again. Let the grass grow longer. Is that not mentioned in there?
I don't recall, I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
Came up somewhere, I cannot recall
Yeah.
where I saw it. I thought that that was a proposal at one point for Park and Rec to, reduce the amount of mowing they have to do.
We talked about it when we talked about green space. So,
Sorry, Tom?
when we talked about green space, the need for green space, and I know that was brought up, but I too would have to go back and look. I can't remember exactly what, but I do remember discussing that when we were discussing the need for more green space,
So Calvin might be a resource,
probably.
for you as well.
We
Director
also
Parker.
have some things in the Lamson Wood long-term plan about different areas of that area that might
Yeah,
be
not,
suitable,
not for prairie.
not for prairie,
Yeah,
because it's
trying-
mostly woodland,
Yeah.
but,
That's okay,
It
Oak
was-
Hickory Woodland, but let's talk about Calvin Todd, the Park and Rec Director, and Pam Kraft, the Parks Director. I think that might be a better route to try to do some large areas
Okay.
in the parks. I think you get more public buy-in than the idea of,
Okay.
I mean, you know, what you're gonna push back about aesthetics, you know? Some people think a lawn's supposed to be
Yeah.
short, so that's your hill to climb, but some area of the park where we let, and not, I shouldn't say let, because when you just let whatever grows, it's not,
No, you have
it's
to
not
manage it.
prairie. You actually have to manage it.
To manage
You
it.
have to
Yeah.
plant it, you have to burn it, you have to.
I mean, I know that we have places where, let's say, some lawns have not been taken care of, and we have a snake problem, and it's a
Yeah.
problem for the neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then it
So,
becomes a matter of interpretation. People think that they can do
Yeah.
what they like, they don't read the ordinance. They don't take care of it like they should.
so, you know, I'm all for planting more trees, that's my thing.
Yeah.
You know, I say if we plant a tree per household for the next 10 years, that'll go a long way
Yeah.
for our contribution.
Yeah.
But I think Judy's right, go out and create your own commission, do the study, do surveys around town, find out who wants this.
Okay.
Bring the proposal to us, that we don't have the experts that can come up with and write that type of a proposal, so if you want that, that's the proposal you need to come to us with.
So did I understand there's no city in the United States that has this kind of policy?
Right. Correct.
But there must be someone who's written some kind of a model proposal already.
I don't know. I did a search and Google replied, "We're sorry, there's no responses to your search." So.
Well, it's a challenge, I would
Yeah.
say, for people, you know? I mean, we, at this point, when your grass grows too long, the city goes down and cuts it,
Yeah.
because it's unsightly.
Well.
And that's not good for our town.
Yeah.
That's
So-
not good for economic development.
Mhm.
We know that we have had executives try to bring people here to Fairfield. And, some of those, and again, I don't know how many, but I know at least some have driven around town and, rejected the offer to come to move here,
Oh.
because we didn't look very good.
Interesting.
We didn't look very kept. So we wanna work on that, and, so how do you marry those two? It's a tough one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we do have a new, 40 to 50 acre plot of prairie ground north of Waterworks Park, which is a nice, beautiful
Okay.
park,
Yeah, Natty Land.
the Natty Land. Okay, great. Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.